Welcome to this series. So, whenever we have a repeating thought, feeling, or behavior, it means that it's anchored into us somehow. And there's always an emotion or feeling that will anchor it in. So, this series is focused on helping us identify those feelings as the anchor to our unwanted thought, feeling, or behavior. How can I say that we're anchoring in one feeling and then repeatedly feeling another? It's because sometimes we'll allow ourselves to feel one thing because we're trying to avoid feeling another thing. And so, what it comes down to alleviate these stuck repeating patterns, is to identify that feeling that's anchored it in, to acknowledge that we're stuck, first of all, that we have this pattern, validate why we have it, accept that we have it, and then be present with the feeling that has been anchoring it in. And when we are present with this feeling, we're no longer pushing it away, we're no longer resisting it. Because you may want to say that you've been feeling this feeling all along, so feeling it isn't going to help. But this feeling that we're going to do is with presence, meaning we're no longer resisting it. We've already accepted it, so we're taking it as our own and letting it be with us. And this allows the central channel to open when we stop resisting what is. And being present with the feeling allows it to start moving again because it is energy, just like everything else. And once it starts moving again, it will go through that central channel and get unstuck. And you will no longer repeat the pattern because you've already understood. So when we are present with the feeling, we are not pushing it away, blaming anyone else, projecting it onto anyone else, denying it. We are not fabricating or justifying. We're not wishing it was different. We're not thinking about the past or the future. We're simply being with it, letting it be with us. We're doing this not for the purpose of getting rid of it. We're simply being present with it. Byproduct of this is that it is energy, and once it's no longer stuck to us, once it's no longer being held into us with the resistance, it will move on its own. And in the process of allowing that to happen, we become the version of ourselves that can process that feeling, meaning it's no longer going to be coped with. It's no longer going to be something we blame on someone else or project on someone else or deny feeling. We're no longer going to suppress or deny it or wish it was different or fight against it or feel something else instead or tell ourselves a story that helps us avoid it or do something distractive or addictive that helps us avoid it. No longer will we have to fall into those coping mechanisms, and no longer will we do what behaviors we were doing in order to avoid that feeling, because now we are a place where that feeling can go through. It can be processed and it can be handled. We're essentially maturing ourselves into that version of ourselves that can handle that feeling. And these are often anchored into us as a result of, things that happened in childhood or experiences that were overwhelming or traumatic, things we've maybe held onto a misunderstanding about or just haven't been able to face fully. And it starts affecting us in ways that we don't necessarily notice or correlate to the feeling that we're avoiding, because it gets pushed into our subconscious where we don't really pay attention to it much. And our ego has this way of behaving to cope with any scenario that would cause us to potentially feel that. And so sometimes this is as simple as we have a habit of pushing people away because we have an unprocessed heartbreak. So our ego pushes people away so that we don't potentially have to feel that heartbreak. And you start feeling it a little and you push it away, or maybe you're no longer even conscious that that hurt it lives within you. And the behaviors become unconscious because they're programmed in as the way to cope with that, or the way to avoid having to cope with that. So we get into these reactive states, and if we don't slow down and take notice of what these reactive states are, we can repeat them for a long time. But eventually, when it's time for them to be noticed, you'll notice the pattern of them. You'll notice that, oh, I always do this when that happens. Or why do I keep repeating this behavior that I don't want? Or why does this thought keep recurring to me? Once you notice the pattern, you know that it's time for you to address that. So in this series, we'll be addressing a bunch of different feelings. You can actually search for a specific feeling if you've identified something that you want to address, or you can go through the series and go along through each feeling in the series. If you don't feel like this is a feeling that really affects you or you need to do work on, you are welcome to stay along and hold space for those who are working through that feeling. By becoming part of the group of collective that is participating in this, you are a strength when you have already processed and already have the ability to hold space for that feeling. So it is helpful for you to participate if you are called to, if it is in, your highest excitement to do so. So this series can be kept as a resource for when something does come up. And the basic thing that this series is doing is just helping you hold space for the feeling. I'm going to talk about the formula and walk us through the steps, and then encourage you to spend time with the feeling while I do so as well. And there'll be times where I encourage you to take the time to spend time with the feeling for a small amount of time by pausing the video and doing it on your own. Really get to customize what your comfort level is with it. But some of these feelings are really scary to this inner part of us. So the point is just to hold space for you, to be with you so that you don't feel alone when you're feeling and processing this feeling. And if this is beneficial to you, I hope that you will let me know, participate, pass it along to someone who you think might also enjoy it. And sometimes I'm going to be using my cards to guide us into what feeling we should address. And sometimes I'll be choosing something from the comment section if there's someone who's presented something that they'd like to address. So feel free to make it your own. The meditation that's included is to help get us into the space that will make this work easier. And as you become more comfortable, you can continue on with the meditations and following along, or you can skip that section if you know that you can get into the space without having to go through the meditation. Use it for what it's worth to you. Use it how it works for you. Feel free to ask questions. Subscribe just to have it as a resource for when you do need it, if it's not something that you need to do right now. But this is the beginning of becoming the version of you that can feel this feeling. Here we're going to use a meditation to enhance the effects of the process we're doing. So I invite you to begin by taking some deep breaths. Now you pray that space above you that you're praying to. I want you to imagine source light coming down from that space. It comes down, it enters your crown, and fills up your head. The source light fills your neck and your shoulders. The light fills your arms and your fingers and your chest and your torso and your hips. And you imagine the light entering into your thighs, knees, down your calves, your ankles, into your feet, and to your toes. With this light completely filling your body, I invite you to envision pushing cords of the light down out the bottom of your feet, down into the center of the earth. Here you can imagine the cords rooting into the center of the earth, or even tying off to a pole down there. Once you're anchored down into the earth, I invite you to invite Mother Earth's loving energy to come back up those cords and to enter your body, filling your feet, your legs, your center, your arms, your throat, your neck. So now you are connected above and below. I invite you to bring these energies to a meeting point at your heart. As you bring these energies to meet at your heart, I invite you to form a bubble around your heart with these energies. When the bubble has been formed, you can expand the bubble to include your whole chest, expand to include your whole body, and expand your bubble to include the whole room that you're in. Expand the bubble to include the building that you are in, the area that you're in. Expand the bubble to include your entire town. Expand to include your entire state, county, include your entire country. Expand your bubble to include Earth. You to feel invited to expand your bubble even further past the constraints of time and space. Then push your bubble out even further than that, connected to all that is in a very conscious way. Here it is easier to affect change. There exists a divine blueprint of your well-being and wholeness. You can imagine this up above you. I invite you to bring your energy up and connect to your divine blueprint as if your energy is now reading the blueprint, reminding yourself of your wholeness, healthy way of being. Here I present to you the violet flame energy, simply intending it. You can take hold of this energy. As you take hold of it, I invite you to run the energy down your entire body. This violet flame transmutes dark, dense, stuck energy, pushing it down the body and pushing anything that can be moved at this time down, down, down. We ask Mother Earth to take the energy, to cleanse it for us, and return it to us in the form of rainbow love water. I invite you to imagine Mother Earth is now raining down the cleansed version of your energy upon you. Little drops of various colors joining back with you, purified sense, lending to your health and your wholeness and your well-being. Sense of peace and harmony fully restored. You can repeat this process of bringing your energy up to your blueprint to read it, using the violet flame to brush down your body and push into the earth, where Mother Earth cleanses and returns to you in the form of rainbow love water. Purified version of your energy, you to match your divine blueprint. And repeat this process for as long as it feels comfortable to you. I also invite you to imagine setting a timer for this process to continue, paying attention to it. Timer for 48 hours. This 48 hours, I will be sure to hydrate well. As the body continues to cleanse and purify. Tended it. This relaxed state, connected to the all, begin our work. Okay, now let's get into the specific feeling that we are addressing in this episode. Now, from here, most of the work that we'll be doing is to help our mind catch up to the understanding of what is true for us. And we're going to release any emotion that may be stuck by becoming the version of ourselves that can integrate it in, so it is no longer stuck, but simply using us as a vessel for its movement. It is able to present itself to us simply as a piece of data for us to consider in our experience of life. The card we got is this picture. Look at your screen now. A pig looking at cat, and cat has an ice cream cone, and cat looks pretty happy about it. And pig doesn't. Pig looks sad or jealous, maybe envious, because he doesn't have an ice cream cone. Let's look at what the words on the back say. Does cat's ice cream cone make pig less happy? Well, technically we don't know if pig is less happy because of the ice cream cone, but in this depiction it does appear that pig is using the ice cream cone to express his unhappiness as a potential reason that he is unhappy. Does cat notice pig? No, cat seems to have his focus on his enjoyment of his life at this moment and what he's grateful for. What does pig feel about cat? I think it's jealousy or envy. So that means that pig feels like Oh, it's got to be envy. Pig feels like he should have the ice cream. And he's not happy for Cat having the ice cream because he doesn't have an ice cream. Do you ever feel bad you don't have something someone else has? So this is asking you to identify that you might have this feeling in you. Do you ever feel bad that you don't have something someone else has? How about their happiness? When someone else has happiness, do you feel bad that you don't have happiness? When someone else has money, do you feel bad you don't have money? What about a vehicle or a certain job or a certain title or a certain number of friends, a certain place to live, a certain way of handling life, a certain way they look? What is it that you can readily identify in yourself as unable to be happy for someone else when they have it? And actually feeling bad that you don't have it. Okay, so we're diving right into one of the darker energies called envy here. And I have done another video about envy. If you want to explore my perspective on it further, I had done some research and shared about it. And it was a while back, maybe last year or so. So you would have to search my channel, but basically it's a human way to feel when you don't understand that seeing that thing that you want is actually meant to inspire you. And because seeing that thing that you want makes you want it too, and you also have a belief that you can't have it, that is what causes the discomfort and the unhappiness. It's not necessarily true that you can't have it. Maybe it's true that you can't have it now. Maybe it's true that you can't have it the same exact way, especially if it's a certain boyfriend or family member, reputation, things like that. But it's meant to inspire you to look at how you can give yourself what will make you happy. Because there's some sort of version of that for you. And you can never be someone else. So your experience is unique to you. And the life that you're living is meant to push you in the direction that you always meant to go. So while it's understandable that our ego wants to protect itself and might live in fear if we don't have certain things, it's also true that our soul may have wanted to experience the things that we're experiencing because we are meant for something that only we can accomplish, and we are being set up to do so. Maybe we're clearing patterns from an ancestry, and eventually we will be inspired to do something great with that. But we will always be distracted from doing so if we spend our time just feeling bad about not having something that this session isn't necessarily about convincing you not to want to feel envy, but accepting that you do have envy and becoming the version of you that can process it through so that it doesn't limit you and that you don't have to feel bad anymore. So if you can acknowledge that you have the envy, that's the first step. I'm just going to pause so I can sneeze. Okay. So once you acknowledge your envy, you may have it on one topic and you may have it on many. You can just start with one example in your mind and validate why you feel that way about envy. Why are you envious? Why do you feel bad that you don't have what they have? Why do you feel bad? Because whatever the reason is, it's valid for you because it goes along with your experiences and your thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs. Your experience is valid. It's valid for you to decide to have felt that way and even act whatever way you have as a result of feeling the envy. Some people can go to great lengths to live through their envy, which can be harmful to themselves and others. And we're not here to shame you, we're just here to become the version of yourself that can handle envious feelings so that you don't have to act out and you don't have to harm yourself or others. So recognize that it's valid for you to feel the way you feel. Then accept that it's the truth. It is what it is. I don't have that thing that they have, and I am envious. Now I'm going to try to draw up an example of something in my life. I don't usually feel envious because I recognize others as a part of myself, and I tend to feel happy, and I tend to recognize a desire for something that I don't have, that someone else has, as an inspiration to achieve that myself. And the only reason is because I've done work on envy already. But because I've done work on envy, I think I can recall what it is to feel envious. I think I can use a story in my head to do the next step with you, which is once we accept that it's the case, that we are envious, we are going to be present with what it feels like. So, can you feel what it feels like? Now, this is, don't push it away, don't blame anyone, okay? This isn't the time for pointing the finger and making it their fault. You're owning this feeling, you're inviting it in to be with you. So, you're not doing that so that it goes away. You're doing that because it's a feeling that you've identified as valid and you are allowing it to be there. You're no longer pushing it away. When you allow yourself to be present with this feeling, you may feel it, you may cry, you may have a release, you may feel angry. I want you to promise not to harm yourself or anyone else. You're going to have to be brave enough to feel this and be present with it. And know that simply feeling this will not harm you. It would only be the actions you take as a result of feeling it that could harm you or someone else. So it's very important that we don't do that. Even if we feel extreme discomfort, you're just going to be with it. You're just going to surrender and know that this feeling is allowed to be with you. You feel angry, and you may feel disappointed and frustrated and like it isn't fair, and you may want to scream and cry, and you may feel bad about yourself, and you may feel inadequate. You may feel like you're in lack, or you'll never have enough, or like never whatever you do isn't good enough. You may feel like it should be yours instead. You feel angry. You may feel like you want to destroy the person who has it. I want you to make sure that you're not going to harm yourself or anyone else, but you're going to let yourself feel what you feel. You may feel like because they have it, you can't have it. So you may feel jealous. This is us being present with what it feels like to be envious. Maybe it's a case where they have a lot more money than you and they can go out for expensive meals and they can tip double what you can. And maybe they have the luxury of buying new clothes for every season and staying up with the trends. And you feel lack and you feel like not enough and you feel like you want those things too, and you feel like those things would make you happy and that you are deserving of those things. feel like they're not deserving. So you may feel judgmental. You may feel confused on why you haven't been able to achieve it or why it hasn't happened for you. You may feel mad at God or spirit or your parents or yourself. You could be mad at yourself for not doing what you needed to do to achieve that for yourself, or for not even understanding how to achieve it for yourself. You might be mad at the people who are supposed to teach you how to prepare yourself in this manner to have what you want. Let's look at something very basic like an ice cream cone, because it's more of a childlike thing for someone to be envious of an ice cream cone, because a child is more likely to feel like they can't have that thing, right? Because their parents told them no or whatever. Adult would probably just buy their own ice cream if they saw someone with an ice cream and they wanted it. But in your life, there's probably something that you feel like you can't get. You feel like something's in your way. So anger can be with you. This envy is allowed to be with you. And you're allowed to be envious of this. You're allowed to feel bad that you don't have what they have. So you allow yourself to feel bad. Just be present with what it feels like to feel bad. Now at this point of the video, I want to invite you to identify where you're at. And if you know that this feeling is still very strong within you, I want you to pause the video and be with that feeling for 60 seconds. In 60 seconds, you can start the video again, and then we'll be here right here with you, with the feeling, allowing the feeling. And we're just going to be present as the feeling is also present and allowed to be with us, and we feel bad. And as you check in with yourself, and that feeling is still just as strong, or maybe it's lessening its strength, but if you still feel it, I invite you to pause the video for 120 seconds. So this time you're going to go 2 minutes by yourself feeling the feeling, allowing it to be with you. So you shouldn't be rushing it, you shouldn't be pushing it away, you shouldn't be blaming yourself or anyone else. You're literally just being with it as if it's sitting next to you. After 2 minutes, if you'd like to come back, we'll be with you and the feeling. I want you to notice where you're at with the feeling now. Is the feeling just as strong? Are you still feeling bad that you don't have what they have? It's okay. This may take as long as it takes. If you're ready, I invite you to pause the video and spend 5 minutes with the feeling. At the end of 5 minutes, you can return to us and we will be present with you and the feeling. Allow yourself to feel bad. You don't have what they have. As you allow this feeling to be with you, I invite you to take deep breaths. This feeling is allowed to be there as if you are the adult and it is the child. And you are just unconditionally present with what this feeling is. It doesn't have to change what it is. Welcomed it in to be with you. Now I want you to check in with where you're at with the feeling now. To invite you to pause the video and for another 10, 20, or 30 minutes, I'd like you to commit to being present with that feeling on your own. And then you can come back to the video and we'll be here present with you in that feeling. And as you sit with the feeling and allow it to be there, you might feel that it's harder to grasp it, it's harder to feel it. It doesn't feel as strong anymore, but it's started to loosen up. For some of you, it may have moved altogether. And if you're continuing on with us to hold space for the others, I appreciate that. Thank you. That you've returned from your time with your feeling, being present by yourself. If you know there's more to do, I'm going to invite you to pause the video and be with your feeling unconditionally, with no urgency for it to leave or hurry up. Because this feeling is allowing you to become the version of yourself that can handle this feeling. This is you processing a feeling that as a human being, you want to be equipped to process. What you're actually doing is maturing yourself into a version of yourself that can be mature enough and responsible enough to feel this feeling. So I want you to spend the time until this feeling is no longer there with you, that you can't grasp it anymore. So pause the video until you're in that space and then come back to us. And don't rush it. There's no time limit. It takes as long as it takes. You may notice that sometimes when you're on your own, or even waiting with us on the video, something else tries to come into your mind, a different thought, a worry that you have, something you forgot to do. These distractions are normal. However, it is important that you pull your attention back onto being present with the feeling. Because this feeling has been ignored and pushed aside and resisted for sometimes a very long time in your life. So what's trying to happen is your defense mechanisms that protect you from feeling this are trying to distract you and say, no, we don't have to feel this, remember? But what you're doing is overriding that, and you're allowing yourself to be present with this feeling because you are actually growing and learning and becoming the version of yourself that can be responsible enough to feel this feeling. So the coping mechanism part of you, which is your ego, is not aware of that yet, but will become aware of it. So it's important to redirect into presence with the feeling anytime the distractions start to come up. You don't have to start over in the process unless you feel like you do. If you get distracted or someone calls you or someone talks to you during it, You just return back into presence. And it's important to make the effort to be present fully without the distractions as much as possible. But if a distraction comes, it's okay. You can recover back into the process. So now that you've been fully present with this feeling and you can no longer identify with the feeling, what has actually happened is once you accepted that you had it, you opened up your central channel. And then once you were present with it, you allowed it to be with you. Naturally took its course to move through you because you just became the version of yourself that can handle that feeling. The automatic response that you used to have to try to protect you from that feeling, which meant that you ignored it, pretended it wasn't there, justified it in your mind, told yourself a story about why it was okay to feel that way, or to not deal with that feeling on a very deep level, or projected it as somebody else's fault. It's their fault I feel this way. All those things that you used to have to do to handle that feeling when it came up, and which also caused you to act in limiting and challenging ways for yourself or others, that will no longer be necessary. And you'll notice that when that feeling ever comes up again, it will pass through you. You will be able to be present with it, and you won't enact that coping mechanism anymore, because you have now matured into the version of yourself that can handle that. And there's a space in your body for it to go through, and it will know that. So now that you've become the version of you that can handle feeling envy, the irony is that you very likely won't feel envy anymore. That you had that lodged in your system so that you could experience envy because you wanted to know something more about it. You might even be a master of envy if you've been experiencing it a long time in many, many loops around many, many experiences. And now you're able to see the other side of things. So if you so choose, you can look at all the reasons why you don't have to be envious, to experience envy at all anymore. If you do, it'll be okay too. So let me know what your experience of this was. How did it work for you? Do you have any questions? I'll be interested to hear from you. And you can look for this series to continue on my channel. So like the video to let me know if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to follow along or just have access to this in the future at a time when you do feel like you're ready for it. See you then.